On a humid Sunday morning in September 1739, the air in the South Carolina Lowcountry was thick with more than just the usual summer heat. While the white planter class gathered in their pews for Sunday service, a different kind of gathering was taking place near the banks of the Stono River. This was not a meeting of prayer, but a council of war. 20 enslaved men, led by a man known to history only as Jimmy, or sometimes Cato, stood at a crossroads. They were about to launch the largest slave uprising in the history of the British mainland colonies. Their goal was simple, yet unimaginably dangerous: to march south across the wilderness to the sanctuary of Spanish Florida. They didn't just want their freedom. They wanted to seize it by force. This is the story of the Stono Rebellion, a moment of profound defiance that sent shockwaves through the Atlantic world and forever altered the landscape of American slavery. To understand why Stono happened, we have to look at the world of 1730s South Carolina. By this time, the colony was a powerhouse of the British Empire, driven by one thing: rice. The swampy, tidal lands were perfect for Carolina gold, but the labor required to cultivate it was grueling and deadly. To maximize profits, the white minority had imported thousands upon thousands of enslaved people from West Africa. By 1739, South Carolina was a colony with a black majority. In many parishes, enslaved people outnumbered white settlers by 10 to 1. This created a powder keg of tension. The white elite lived in a constant state of paranoia, fearing the very people who created their wealth. The men who gathered at the Stono River that morning weren't just random laborers. Many of them were from the Kingdom of Congo, a region in Central Africa that had been influenced by Portuguese missionaries for over 2 centuries. These men were often Catholic, spoke a bit of Portuguese, and most importantly, many were trained soldiers. They had experience in the civil wars of the Congo, meaning they understood military drill, the use of firearms, and the power of the drum. This wasn't a disorganized riot. It was a military operation. There were also external factors at play. For years, the Spanish government in Florida had been issuing proclamations promising freedom to any enslaved person who escaped from the British colonies and reached St. Augustine, provided they converted to Catholicism. This wasn't done out of the kindness of the Spanish heart. It was a calculated move to destabilize the British economy. In 1738, a group of escapees had successfully established Fort Mose, the first legally sanctioned free black settlement in what is now the United States. To the enslaved people in South Carolina, St. Augustine wasn't just a city. It was a beacon of hope. The timing of the rebellion was no accident. A massive yellow fever outbreak had recently devastated the colony, killing both black and white residents and leaving the colonial administration in disarray. Furthermore, news had reached the colonies that Britain and Spain were on the brink of war, a conflict history would call the War of Jenkins' Ear. The rebels knew the British would be distracted. And finally, Sunday was the perfect day. Under colonial law, white citizens were required to carry firearms to church, but the rebels knew that during the service, the settlers would be confined in one place, their attention focused on the pulpit rather than the road. The rebellion began at Hutchinson's store, a small outpost near the Stono River Bridge. The rebels broke in, killed the 2 storekeepers, and seized the muskets and ammunition stored there. From there, they began their march southward. As they moved from plantation to plantation, their numbers grew. They burned the houses of planters known for their cruelty, but in a striking display of selective justice, they spared a man named Wallace, who was known to be kind to his workers. As they marched, they didn't move in silence. They carried banners, one of which reportedly bore the word liberty. They played drums, an instrument that was not just a rhythmic tool but a sophisticated means of long-distance communication in West Africa. The sound of the drums served as a call to arms, echoing through the marshes and summoning others to join the ranks. By the afternoon, the group had grown to between 60 and 100 men. They were confident, perhaps even believing that the momentum of their march would trigger a colony-wide collapse of the plantation system. However, the element of surprise didn't last as long as they had hoped. By chance, Lieutenant Governor William Bull encountered the group while he was traveling on horseback. Realizing the scale of the uprising, Bull fled and alerted the colonial militia. The machinery of the state began to grind into motion. The militia, composed of armed white planters and professional soldiers, was mobilized with terrifying speed. By late afternoon, the rebels paused in an open field near the Edisto River. Accounts suggest they stopped to rest and celebrate their progress, perhaps waiting for more recruits to join them. It was here that the militia caught up with them. The battle that followed was brief but brutal. The rebels, though trained and courageous, were outnumbered and outgunned by the mounted militia. They fought with a desperate bravery, as one contemporary account put it, but the line eventually broke. Many were killed on the spot. Those who were captured faced a grim fate. The colonial authorities, determined to send a message that would stifle any future thoughts of rebellion, executed the captives and placed their heads on poles at every milepost along the road. It was a gruesome display of state power, designed to reinforce the very system the rebels had sought to destroy. But the story didn't end at the Edisto River. A small group of rebels managed to escape into the woods, and for several months, a low-level guerrilla war continued in the swamps. It took the colony nearly a year to fully suppress the final remnants of the uprising. The shock of the Stono Rebellion led to immediate and drastic changes in the law. In 1740, the South Carolina legislature passed the Negro Act, a comprehensive set of laws that would define the institution of slavery for the next century. The Negro Act of 1740 was designed to strip enslaved people of any shred of autonomy. It made it illegal for enslaved people to assemble in groups, to grow their own food, to earn their own money, or to learn to read and write. Perhaps most tellingly, it banned the use of drums. The white authorities had recognized that the drum was a tool of revolution, a way for the oppressed to speak to one another across the fields. By silencing the drum, they hoped to silence the spirit of resistance. The act also imposed a prohibitive tax on the importation of new slaves from Africa, particularly from the Congo and Angola regions, as the planters now viewed these people as too rebellious. For a decade, the slave trade into Charleston slowed to a trickle as the colony tried to rebalance its population and regain control. For a long time, the Stono Rebellion was relegated to a footnote in history books, often portrayed as a localized riot rather than a sophisticated military uprising. But in recent years, historians have begun to see it for what it truly was: a precursor to the revolutionary ideals that would define the American experiment. The men at Stono were fighting for the same liberty that the Founding Fathers would claim decades later, though their struggle was met with the full weight of colonial suppression. The legacy of Stono lives on in the landscape of the Lowcountry. The Stono River still flows past the site of Hutchinson's store, and the marshes still hold the echoes of that September morning. It serves as a stark reminder that even in the most oppressive systems, the human desire for freedom cannot be fully extinguished. The rebels of 1739 didn't reach St. Augustine, but their march through the dust of the Carolina Road remains one of the most significant acts of defiance in the long, painful history of the American South. As we look back at this hidden history, we are forced to confront the complexities of our past. We see the brutal reality of the plantation system, the calculated politics of the Spanish and British empires, and the incredible bravery of individuals who were willing to risk everything for a chance at a life where they were no longer property, but people. The drums of Stono may have been silenced by law in 1740, but their rhythm still beats in the heart of the American story, reminding us that the fight for liberty is as old as the nation itself. Thank you for joining us as we uncovered this forgotten chapter of the American past. History is rarely simple, and it is often hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to look closer at the shadows of the marsh and the silence of the riverbanks. If we listen closely enough, we can still hear the call for liberty that rose from the Stono River all those centuries ago.